Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Is Turkey becoming Africa's mediator? After successfully resolving a dispute between neighbours Ethiopia and Somalia, it wants to mediate between neighbours Rwanda and the DRC, who are locked in political confrontation fueled by an insurgency near their borders. Now, Rwanda's President Paul Kagame met with his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan as he made an official visit to Ankara 2 days ago. It is the first such visit by a Rwandan head of state to Turkey. During the talks, Erdogan pitched the offer of playing a peacemaker. He said his country is ready to provide any support needed to resolve the rift between the two nations. The Democratic Republic of Congo accuses Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, who have waged an insurgency in the country's east for years. They are fighting to take control of the mineral-rich North Kivu province, which borders Rwanda. The rebels have advanced in the province, reaching near the provincial capital of Goma. The crisis has forced people to leave their homes as the fall of Goma seems near. Thousands are fleeing the DRC on overcrowded boats, while the hospitals in the area have been overwhelmed as casualties from the fighting continues to grow. So far, the mediation efforts between both sides were led by Angola. However, the efforts have not been successful. The talks between the two nations were called off last month, and the situation on the ground is worsening. The hopes for peace in the region were fading day by day. But enter Erdogan. Erdogan has pitched his model of diplomacy that has worked in Africa. Rwanda's president has hailed the diplomatic efforts of Turkey to help broker peace between Horn of Africa neighbours Ethiopia and Somalia. The two were locked in a year-long dispute over a port deal Addis Ababa had signed with Somalia's breakaway region, Somaliland. The deal was to access Somaliland's port and coastline in exchange for recognizing the territory as an independent nation. Turkey, which is a close ally of Somalia, led the talks between the two nations, leading them to sign the Ankara Declaration last month. Both the sides agreed to resolve the differences and to leave behind contentious issues. The deal emerged as a major win for Erdogan. But that's not it. Earlier, Erdogan also pitched to resolve disputes between Sudan and the UAE. The Sudan army accuses the UAE of backing the rival paramilitary force, the RSF, which has been fighting a brutal civil war with the army for almost 2 years. Sudan Army Chief positively received the idea. Now Ankara wants to resolve the years-long rift between the DRC and Rwanda. So while major players that Russia, the United States and China are indulging in military and economic activity in Africa to increase their influence, Turkey is choosing the path of peacemaking. Turkish diplomacy could play a major role in improving its global standing. But peacemaking is not the only way Ankara is increasing its footprint in Africa. In recent years, it has sold attack drones to several African nations, including Chad, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. It has signed oil exploration deals with countries like Somalia and Senegal. It has free trade agreements with countries like Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, and Mauritius. Turkey has invested heavily across Africa in recent years. Turkey's direct investments were over $7 billion last year, while total trade surpassed $35 billion. Turkey also has good ties with both Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So could there be another win for Turkish diplomacy in Africa? For more on this, we have with us Vincent Recep, who is the head of political risk for Africa at the Control Risks, and he is joining us live from London. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Alison.
Now, given Turkey's recent success in mediating the dispute between Ethiopia and Somalia, what unique approach or strategy does Turkey bring to conflict resolution that could be effective in addressing the tensions between the DRC and Rwanda?
Thanks, Alison. Well, so first, I think we should say this is new territory for Turkey. The Turkish mediation offer is unprecedented for this region, and throughout the history of conflict in the Great Lakes region, this is the first time that we've seen Turkey try to play a key role as a mediator. And it does come with some credibility, mostly from the success of the talks between Ethiopia and Somalia, as you alluded to, but also from the fact that it does bring economic heft as a leading investor in the two countries. So in Rwanda, it accounts for about 15% of total foreign investment. In Congo, it's also emerged as a prominent investor. We've seen, for example, Turkish firms build an economic and trade center in Kinshasa just recently. And so there is a combination of personal involvement by President Erdogan. We know that he was himself instrumental to the talks between Ethiopia and Somalia, the economic backing, and also the fairly benign image that the Turkish diplomacy benefits in this part of Africa. But I think for this particular conflict, it also comes at an extremely difficult time. And as you reported, as we speak, the M23, the rebel group, is advancing on Goma, has made rapid progress. So the time isn't exactly ripe for mediation, or at least for a deep mediation process that would look at addressing the underlying causes of the conflict.
And Vincent, on that, just how significant is the role of international mediators like Turkey in resolving these long-standing conflicts, such as the DRC's accusations against Rwanda over this exact thing, the M23 rebel support, especially when the regional efforts have faced challenges?
Yeah, so international mediators clearly have a major role to play in this dispute. Congo has continually argued that this is not a domestic issue between the government and a rebel group, but that it is very much a bilateral conflict between itself and Rwanda that needs to be discussed and settled between the two governments with the help of mediators. And so that's why we've seen various mediation tracks, first in Nairobi, Kenya, then lately last year in Angola, and now the involvement of Turkey trying to add its own solution to the equation after the stalling of the talks in Angola. Behind the scenes, we've also seen other international players play a role, and most notably the US, up until last year, was being a very important mediator behind the scenes in avoiding escalation between the two parties. And we know that US discreet intervention was very important at, for example, deconfliction between the Rwandan and DRC armies in the region. So there's definitely a space for international support to the mediation. At the same time, there's also a risk that the more parties get involved in the talks, the more different tracks of mediation you have, and that also can become an obstacle to an effective resolution if too many players get involved without coherence between these different tracks. That's already something we saw as a bit of a problem between the Kenya track and the Angola track. And Turkey is going to have to pay attention to not contribute to that problem with its own offer of mediation now.
Right, Vincent, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights and analysis on the latest on Turkey's mediation efforts.
Thank you very much, Alison.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.